there, moguls. It's me, Marshall Silver, your personal millionaire maker. Getting very excited about my brand new show, 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. I'm going to broadcast live to you. In the first hour of the broadcast, I'm going to give you content, information for better sex, more money, emotional, mental, physical, and even spiritual power. I'll also invite some of my cool multi-millionaire and billionaire friends onto the show to give you more direction, more advice, more strategies and gambits for having it all. The second hour is what I'm most excited about. It's when I get a chance to chat with you. Yes, you. Where you can call in, talk to me, ask me questions. And if you say the secret word of the day, you could win $5,000 cash. At the very least, if you're the most interesting call of the day, you could also win 10 ounces of freshly minted Marshall Silver 999 Fine Silver. All of that and more. Brand new Mercedes-Benz sedan or SUV up for grabs. My personal Rolls-Royce Phantom up for grabs. All the knowledge to get everything you want and so much more. All you got to do is log in to the show to get information about its release coming up. 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, coming to you live from the bunker right here at Studio Money. I'm Marshall Silver, your personal millionaire maker.
Let me bring in our hypnotist, Marshall Silver.
It's Marshall Silver, ladies and gentlemen, the world's fastest hypnotist.
Hello there and welcome home, my little chickadees. Life is good. Life is really good. It's going to be a good day in every single way. Heard a song lyric the other day that I loved. It's a good day in every single way. The God that made the universe knows me by my name. Yes, God does know you by your name. And so do I, by the way, when you call me and you talk to me. Today's secret word of the day worth $8,500, $8,500. As you know, be interesting. You could win 10 ounces of pure Marshall silver. All you got to do is call in, be interesting, be voted by your peers as the best call of the day, and you will win. I'm really excited about our guest today for a number of reasons. Eli Wilhide is a master coach, a mentor, and he's unparalleled as a sales expert. He was once voted the quietest person in his high school. During his early years, they were marked by silence and introspection. The solitude, however, became his strength as it allowed him to develop a keen sensory acuity and a deep understanding of human behavior beyond mere words. From navigating the complexities of his own experiences, both light and dark, Eli was led to become a leading figure in personal development and sales mastery. Under the mentorship of Tony Robbins, Eli transformed his insights into action. He became a top sales representative and trainer, renowned for his exceptional ability to influence and inspire change in others. Despite facing significant health challenges, Eli's dedication and unique approach to sales and coaching has propelled him to the top of the industry, earning him recognition from Tony Robbins himself. And today, through Wilde Influence, Eli is committed to turning emotional dirt into diamonds, helping others achieve financial success and making a profound impact upon other people's lives while enjoying his own journey. Please, nice, big Marshall Silver Live. Welcome to Eli Wilhide. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you so much, Marshall. How are you?
I'm always awesome. You knew that, just like yourself. Eli, just want to be sure I'm pronouncing your last name properly, Wilhide.
My real last name's Wilhide, and that became part of the brand. You know, I was in high school. My high school coach was like, Eli will not hide. You're always hiding. And I was really quiet. And even working for Tony, I worked for Tony for the better part of 14 years, kind of hiding behind his brand. And so this whole essence of Wilde Influence, being wildly influential. I read a book a long time ago by Oscar Wilde, who left his value system a bit different than mine. And if people don't know him, he was a flamboyantly gay person when it was not cool to be gay. And just
absolutely
his sense of expression and part of the ethos of the company to be influential yet authentic to take what's inside of us and transfer it to another. It's kind of the whole thing. So I changed it, not legally, to Eli Wilde is what we go by for the brand. But you probably noticed on Instagram with the verification, we couldn't do the name thing. So it's incongruent, but we just left it.
No, I get it. And I get the name thing big time. I teach, as you know, hypnosis, and you're obviously deep into the concept of words mattering. And
Mhm.
my birth name was Sylvestrak, spelled with 11 letters, spelled Sylwestrak. So
Mhm.
it was impossible for anybody who wasn't Polish not to butcher the name.
Mhm.
I shortened it to Silver, and my name, Marshall Silver, literally means to gather money, to marshal a resource, of course, and then Silver, as it sounds. If my name was Richard, I would never go by Dick. I would go by Rich.
Yeah.
And I would wholeheartedly agree that Will Hyde, that's a direct command.
Yeah.
And that is, if we hear our name every single day, we take on those characteristics like any
Mhm.
other program that we would.
100%.
So, kudos to you. I get the change. I love the name of your company, and let's talk about that. Let's talk about your experience. Growing up as a kid, and how those things form you. Because I too was that kind of a kid. I was scared of my own shadow. We were the poor family. I was wearing my sister's clothes to school, so I was greatly embarrassed every single day. I was embarrassed by the lunch that I ate because we really didn't have much in the way of food. And for me, I turned that into a power. I said, no matter what it takes, I'm going to use my personality to overcome this stuff then, because clearly at this point, my money will not. Talk to
Mhm.
me about your upbringing and what distinctions you learned.
Grew up in a small town in Maryland, and my dad was kind of a tough guy, construction worker, covered in tattoos, the kind of the bad boy of the town. But he got in a really bad car accident from drinking and driving when I was about 2. He was put in a wheelchair. His friend died, and it was just he got very little insurance money from it. So we lived in the poorest part of the worst part of the town, and he bought a duplex, and we lived in one side of the house. We had wood heat, and an African American family lived in the other side. And there's a young kid there that taught me how to throw a punch, ride a bike. And my dad was just always drunk and angry. And growing up in that environment, you shut down a bit. And I experienced a lot of things trauma wise, a lot of abuse from other people that really sat with me. And I left a lot of my head, as you said at the beginning, just kind of in my head processing stuff. And it's taken me years to unravel some of that. And sometimes uh, I still get insights, not just for my own life, but for other people. And I think we realize that, whether it's sales or business, everybody's human, everybody's hurting. And I think the gift in that is it allows you to have more compassion and empathy. But we left a really, really tough life. I looked up to my father a lot and kind of wanted to be like him. But even early in high school, I set like the bench press record for the school. I got really big because I wanted to be like him. And I got into it, which wasn't my essence to try to be like a big tough guy, but I was trying to be like that, trying to find my own voice, trying to find somebody to be my guide. And my mom and I lived with her most of the time, and we really struggled financially. When I was a junior in high school, she had the conversation with me. She's like, "We're pretty much out on the street. We're living on about 14 grand a year," which even that was,
Impossible.
30 years ago, but still that's not wealthy. It doesn't matter 50 years ago. You're not doing very well off. And she worked jobs like McDonald's and places like that. And I remember like that week, I really kind of sit with the gravity of our situation. And I thought about my life very deeply. And my mom always said really positive things to me. That like, you're meant for more, you can do anything. And I had a Marine pen pal for years. And I just believed that that was going to be my path. But she was down to our last dollar, and she played the lottery, and she won $7 million. And yeah, she had a whole conversation. It's a whole long story, but how this came to be. And I won't bore you with the whole long story of like the moment where she told me and what was happening. But I think that also, and by the way, for those of you listening, this is not a commercial to go play the lottery, but it instilled in me a belief. Beliefs come from our experiences, and it made me have an experience that good things can happen to good people. And my mom's a really good person, and she believed in me and this whole sense of power belief. And I believe that all people have goodness inside of them, even if they do some things that are out of alignment with their core. They've been conditioned in a way to get something or to meet a value or need, but all behavior in and of itself has a positive intent. Even if somebody wants to kill themselves, there's a positive intent to it. All of that. So I got from that experience also, as it relates to speaking and selling now, that most people are not going to win the lottery. So this lottery ticket can be this conversation. And I've had conversations with mentors that have meant more than $7 million to me, as far as worth, but also financially. Tony Robbins has been a mentor for a long time. And I've wanted to work on myself to the point where I can make this interaction that much more valuable to a person by getting them to cash in on the ticket that's within themselves. So that became kind of this whole influence and experiences and results and actions and beliefs and decisions and thoughts and conditioning. And that began the whole process, I think, for me, of really getting into this self-development world.
Love it. What a fascinating story. How did it end up with your mom after she won the lottery?
She used to play with a bunch of people, so she gave the majority of it away. And my mom is a people pleaser, and I picked up on a lot of that myself in my life. And it's interesting, people will make money and they give it away. And so as soon as she got it, she did all she could to give it away. But what she held on to, she invested wisely. She went back to university. I got to university. So we went to school at the same time, different schools, of course. But we started a new path, and it allowed me to not go into the military. I got to go to university, and I didn't continue to study as a career, what I did in the study, but I met relationships in university. I was around people that were different than me. And I always felt lost, even in university. But it wasn't until my last year, I met a girl who completely changed my life. She worked in the White House for Bill Clinton, not Monica Lewinsky, but another really amazing girl. And people always think that, but we dated for a while, and it was that relationship. So you look back on your life, you connect those dots, and there's key moments and relationships and conversations that move things. And, even the bad things can serve us if we have that vision and we look back and keep on moving forward. So what happened was I went to school, and because of that relationship, I moved to California, got a job, and then I struggled in that job selling over the phone dental products. And it was interesting. After my mom won the lottery, the first thing that I wanted, she said, "You can have anything." I had a big gap in my teeth. And so the first thing that I wanted was braces. So my senior year of high school, I had braces, and I really came into understanding of myself and this whole mindset thing when I was selling, because we all had the experience of hearing ourselves on the phone for the first time, or voicemail, and we hate the sound of our voice. I was listening to my own voice. My manager was listening to my voice and listening to people on the other line hang up on me because I had no confidence. I mumbled, I stuttered, all of it. And even though I had the gaps in my teeth fixed, the insecurity was still there. So when I communicated, I spoke with a mumble, and I didn't articulate my words because I didn't want people to see my mouth. Turns out in sales, if you don't communicate clearly and confidently, that really affects your ability to eat. And so I was like, I need to work on this. Outside of just the physical, there was a mental and emotional process that I went through to help me feel confident in what I was saying. I needed to work on what I was saying. I scripted things out. I worked on cadence and tonality and all of that. And I just conditioned over and over and over again. I went through every program I could. I watched your podcast you did with Jordan Belfort. Amazing. It was an amazing podcast. I did an event with him maybe 5-6 years ago. Sharp guy, but I went through everything I could and worked on not only the outer game, but the inner game. And then that, of course, led me to consuming massive knowledge. Downtown Los Angeles, the Learning Annex event. There was a huge event. Donald Trump spoke, Marshall Silver spoke, and a guy named Tony Robbins spoke. And I signed up for Tony's thing. I walked on the fire. I drank the Kool-Aid. I harassed his company till they gave me a job, and that became my path.
And when was that?
It was, I want to say April 2005.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. What I understand the concept of people that are wired in such a way that they don't know how to have money. My mom, when I made it big, one of the first determinations I had was I'm going to take care of my mother. And I was there the day she got her first Social Security check, and she looked at the check and she started crying because she realized she couldn't survive on that. And so what that meant was she had no retirement. It meant she couldn't retire, and she was going to have to work until she dropped dead. And it was on that moment when I saw her crying, because I was there the day she opened the check, that I said, Mom, whatever it takes to never see you cry like that again, I'll do. And so I would take care of her financially. It didn't matter how much I gave my mother on a monthly basis. I could give her 2 grand or I could give her 20 grand. And by the end of the month, it was gone every single month. Didn't matter. She didn't have the wiring to invest or to save or to do anything. And so every single month, if she didn't spend it, she would just give it away to other people.
Yeah.
And, that's what I saw. And I realized that you can't survive that way. And, there's going to be a winter that comes sooner or later. And, I wonder how many people are wired that way. I wonder what percentage of the population, no matter what you do for them, no matter what you teach them or what you give to them, they're never going to transform.
Yeah.
And, and so my belief is it's at least 80% of the population. And unfortunately, as much as I would like to be wrong on this, there's no way to change them. They're not going to change. They're wired that way. And then there's people like you and like myself that we go through massively tough times and we say, I'm not living my life like that. This is not going to be my life. And I think for me, at least, and it sounds like for you too, the pain of being embarrassed as a kid, the pain of not having something to eat, the pain of seeing the person I loved more than anybody in the world, my mother, suffer was the thing that said, bite the bullet, get through this thing, learn the lesson, become better.
Yeah.
What do you suppose was the pivotal moment for you when you realized everything's hypnosis? It's all in my head. I need to change what's going on in my mind. And if I change what's going on in my mind, my whole world will change.
As I was studying sales, I was just searching one night and looking for content on sales and I forget what the website was, but it was a random site that led to something called NLP. And I started reading all the NLP stuff that I could. And then somebody said, hey, check out this guy, Tony Robbins. I was like, who's Tony Robbins? And that really opened me up to all of this. And I read the book Psycho-Cybernetics that really, really spoke to me about these internal patterns and what was going on, our self-concept. And I began to do some of the exercises in that book. And I noticed a shift, visualization, not just affirmation, but really this sense of conditioning the mental emotional patterns. And even just the label patterns, just like everything's a pattern, anything that label of it, that disassociation from the thing that's your identity, it's just a pattern, helped me to look at some of my behavior in a way and realize I could change this and I can change it in the moment. And if I can condition that to the point where it's unconscious, I can change my whole life. And then it was just, if I'd had a bad habit or something, it's not me, it's just the conditioning. So, I always say this in at events too. I say I would never say to a child like, little Johnny, you're bad. I'd say, little Johnny, you're amazing. Who you are is amazing, but this behavior is not like you. And so really making that shift for me, behavior versus identity, and doing that for other people in a sales conversation or a seminar, that's what you do, has been amazing. So I think all people can change, but to go back to your point, the baseline for most people based on their conditioning, their environment, that 80%, I think it'd be harder for a lot of them to change, but gun to their head, they're going to change. They get enough leverage, they're going to change. And if a person's 500 pounds overweight, they need more time in the gym than somebody who's trying to lose 2 pounds. And then for that person who's 500 pounds overweight, had family overweight, always been overweight, it's frustrating to see the person that can eat anything and still be in shape. And there's people that are just naturally confident. There's people that are naturally wealthy based on, for many factors. And so that process of staying in your lane, not comparing yourself, running your own race, and chipping away, but having that vision for where you're going, I think is really important. That can help anybody. But again, some people, I think they're all going to get there. Maybe not in this lifetime. I believe it's possible for anybody.
Yes, I would agree it's possible. And having been in this business for 40 years, there was a time when I really wanted to transform the person that needed transformation the most. And it was a realization on my part that the person that needs it the most may not be the one that wants it the most. In fact, they may not even want it at all. They may actually like the way their life is for whatever reason. There's a song by George Michael, and the lyric goes, something I just can't explain, something in me needs this pain. And when I heard that lyric, it just resonated so loudly because I realized we all reach a point of readiness for change when it gets as bad as it can possibly get. The challenge for some people, as bad as it can possibly get, is death.
Yeah.
And then if they transformed, well, hell, the living don't really know. And I think that most people will say they want something, but like, you just said, if somebody's a crack addict, we've never heard a crack addict say, oh, I can't get my fix today. That doesn't occur to them. They keep going until they either get their fix or they die. And I think that part of the challenge for people is reality is created by validation. And the greater the validation, the greater we hold it as a reality. And you even talked about the person that's overweight, whose entire family is overweight, who that's all they see are bad eating habits and lifestyle bad habits. And so they just say, this is the way that it is. It's hard to lose weight. I might as well just give up and not ask. I might as well just give up and accept that this is my life. This is my fate. Whereas somebody else raised in an environment where things come easily, or they're constantly told, like your mother told you, you can do anything you set your mind to. You can be amazing in every way. Your background and my background, as far as our parents are concerned, was identical. My dad was a raging alcoholic. And while I'm sure he was a good person, and I hold no malice or grudge or any bad feelings toward him, we didn't have a relationship because he was just angry all the time. And that anger showed up in alcohol and being blind, fall down drunk all the time.
Yeah.
And so there was nothing good to learn there. So I had simultaneously, just like you did, that message coming in, and then also the message of my mother saying you can do anything you want. And it's up to the individual to determine what's true. But here's what I say. Rather than determine what's true, wouldn't it be better for us to determine what serves us? Even if the thing that serves us is a lie that we believe wholeheartedly, as if it were the truth, in my opinion, that's still more effective. What do you think?
It's an interesting distinction. Yeah, I agree. And thinking through as you're speaking, I was thinking through like Maslow's hierarchy. Like there's a base need for certainty, and certainty is what somebody's used to. It's like they're normal. And a lot of people, they were born into chaos. They were born into a bad situation. Even though they don't like it, that's what's normal. And so their set point, their normal point is that. And then you give them success or validation, it's really uncomfortable for them to have anything outside of that. They're like living in discomfort is what's normal. And people say they have a fear of success. They don't, because they're already, or fear of failure, I should say, but they're already failing. They don't like failing, but like they have an internal like set point for failure. I think with enough pain and leverage, somebody can change. But what is that pain? For some people, it's like you said, death. Some people, it's something in their mindset. And I think that there's a gentleman that I've connected with a lot, Dr. John DeMartini. You know him?
Yep.
Is a brilliant man. And he's got this training that I went through a couple times, and he talks about there's this narcissistic quotient for successful people. They feel like it's almost like divine intervention. Like there's something that guided them. They're supposed to be wealthy. And you see some people, no matter what they have, they feel like they're supposed to be broken. But even the way that a person with a wealthy mindset will ask for something, there's an expectation. Like if I lived in LA for a long time, and you see some of these famous people, the wealthy people, when they ask for something, like they expect that you're going to do it. Even before they were famous, there was like this
Entitlement
quotient. Yeah, and it's an interesting thing that there's an expectation.
No, I would agree. It's they feel as if they're favored. They feel as if God made them special related to everybody else. And I agree that, and certainly I feel that way. I tell my family all the time, God favors me. God likes me more than most.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's one of those things, what's in the highest and best use for us to deliver? I remember the first time I got hypnotized, and I know you'll appreciate this. I was 16 years old. I was at my high school. The hypnotist gave me a suggestion that when he said the words, "Sonny boy," I would stand up from my seat in the audience, walk back to the stage, fall on my butt, roll up my pant legs, climb on his lap, and put my thumb in my own mouth and say, "Sing it again, Daddy." And I remembered when I went back to my seat in the audience, number one, I'm 16. I'm awkward. I'm wearing my sister's clothes, for God's sake, and I'm not going to embarrass myself even more in front of my peers. But he says, "Sonny boy," and I'll be damned. I feel like a magnet's pulling me back to the stage. Come back, pant legs up, thumb in mouth, on his lap, "Sing it again, Daddy." And when I went home that night, I thought, was I hypnotized, or was I just doing what he told me to do? And I thought, well, what if he had told you to be confident and you just did it? What if he told you to go out and be a genius and let your brain do its function, and you just did it? What if he told you that you were actually a multimillionaire whose money had not yet been deposited in your bank account, and so you just went looking for it? Not, can I find it? You just said, where is it? And you just kept looking because you were positive certain that it was there. And I realized in that moment, if that was hypnosis, which it is, then it's the most powerful force on the planet. Call it whatever you want to call it: faith, call it certainty, call it hypnosis, call it NLP, doesn't matter. It's the most powerful force on the planet. And until we get this thing right, nothing is right. Now, I'm glad I could talk to you for hours, Eli. I'm so glad that you and I have connected.
Yep.
I look forward to
Yes,
a long
so many things I want to dig into with you. I'm curious for you, if I could ask how you got into it. When I was on my come up, going through my whole process, of course, I did the Think and Grow Rich affirmation, and then Tony Robbins. I did everything for several years. Every night before I went to bed, I listened to a self hypnosis CD by Edward Casey. You remember Edward Casey is brilliant.
Abraham.
Yeah, what came through him. And, we've gone through that. And I'm at night, I'm reading My Voice Will Go With You by, the book on Erickson. And so how did you get into this? And, Luke, who works with you, we obsess over language patterns and frames. And I saw Tony doing what he was doing. And of course, I was mesmerized by Tony. Back around when I saw you for the first time, 2005, I would see Tony speak, and there was no phone recording dictation. So I would take like a voice recorder, like a tape recorder, a physical tape, and I would record Tony. I would sit at home at night and I would transcribe what he was saying, stop, type, stop, type. And then I'd print it up and I'd highlight all of his questions with a pink highlighter. Because he says, in the triad, and he's got a modified version of NLP, which is basically focus, meaning, physiology. And he was really big on focus, and he drilled that. So he said, questions are the primary tool for focus. So I began to classify all these different types of questions, and now there's connecting questions, background questions, or like pattern interrupts, and really look at those questions of where I was directing somebody's focus, external, internal, and then creating a new meaning for it. So that was kind of my and I basically took Tony's main event and I pretty much memorized the entire thing. And I did a presentation on behalf of Tony, selling people into his big event, UPW. I did that same presentation 3,400 times. And it was basically a microcosm of what he did over his 3-day firewalk experience. I took the most persuasive elements I could find, and I just put them into a script, and I delivered that script twice a day, every day for over 10 years. And so that was kind of my intro. And then I read a book called Sleight of Mouth by Robert Dilts. And it was really into the structure of a belief, like if this, then that, if this means, changing the cause, changing the meaning. And that really helped me look at the structure of language. This was years ago. And then we started to create processes around breaking beliefs in sales, overcoming objections, changing the meaning around money or time or who they are in relationship to other people. So that was kind of my intro with all of this. You're so brilliant at language. I was telling Luke, I geeked out, and I just got off a call with Owen Cook. You know Owen? And
if it's the Owen Cook I'm thinking of,
yeah,
was
of course.
the pickup artist?
Yeah. He's we're really close.
I love Owen. He's a really good man.
Yeah, he's a great guy. I got personal coaching from a mentor that taught me NLP years ago, worked in the Tony world, named Steve Linder. Does that name ring a bell?
Of course. Oh God, I love you. One of my favorite people on the planet.
I was talking to him because I was geeking out on language. I said, who do you think's the best? And he said he saw you speak one time and you pretty much closed the entire room. He said he's mesmerized. And so he contacted you or somebody in your team and said, how much would it be to spend half a day with Marshall, hit record, and just take in your language patterns? And it was an obscene number. And so he was like, no.
Well, that's relative.
Yeah. That's what, but his first thought was like, no. And then he said, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and do it. And he did it. He recorded it. And I asked him, was it valuable? He said, yes. And he talked about how warm and charming you are. And he spent time in your home with you and your wife. And so we connected to that. But let me say one more thing. I've been a student of self-development for a long time. And I was actually going through some programs the other day. And I found this CD program. And the guy who teaches it is one of the most handsome people you've ever seen in your life. I don't know if you recognize this guy, but he's right here. Do you recognize this guy?
I do. He's handsome too. My gosh, good looking man. He's going to go far.
Yeah,
that guy's going to have a hell of a career. Going to do $1 billion in sales.
That's it. It's great stuff. So yeah, how did you get into hypnosis? And I mean, your use of language, even 30, 40 years ago is amazing. You articulate very well. Was that always something for you? I had to work on it. My articulation, voice, cadence, tonality, all of that. Was that natural for you, or did you train it? Did you go to a school for hypnosis, or how'd you get into it?
Yeah, way to turn the interview around there, Eli. The bottom line for everybody, you ever see a TV show called Lie to Me?
I did. Yeah.
So Tim Roth was in
Yep.
that.
Yeah.
And if you're listening to the show right now, watching the show, you should check it out, Lie to Me. And the whole series, it's a TV series, is about an agency of cold readers, people that understand micro expression and can read what all the nonverbal communication is. Inside the series, one of the characters is what's called a natural. It's somebody who just reads people. And I believe one of the most important portions of communication is not just questions, it's the ability to be interested versus interesting, to put your attention on someone else rather than on what the next thing you're going to say is. And
Mhm.
so, because I have 10 siblings, my mother birthed 11 children, I grew up in an environment being dirt poor that I got to watch a lot of different personalities and how they dealt with things. I
Mhm.
got to see who in my family, which of my siblings were actually getting what they wanted, which were getting what they wanted by force and short term, and which were getting what they wanted long term by simply being charming and making it about other people.
Mhm.
And so for me, yes, I'll pay for any training available. I will be the best student in the room until I'm better than the teacher, because that's what a good teacher wants for their students.
Mhm.
For me, though, I also know that a large portion of my skill set came from doing magic as a child,
Mhm.
because magic, prestidigitation, sleight of hand, illusion is based on the ability to see the world through your spectator's eyes. So if I'm holding a card in my hand and it's palmed and I don't want you to know it's there, yet I see your eyes keep darting toward my hand, then I know by the way I'm holding my hand, it's suspect to you, which is why you keep looking over there. And I know that I've got to keep paying attention to your point of view and adjust what I do, my behaviors accordingly. That's sales. You know,
Mhm.
if I have a product or something that I believe in, a service that I have a moral and ethical obligation to sell to you, then my job is, like any good artist, to keep looking at my media, which is you, the person I'm selling to, and adjust my approach to the media until the media forms into the shape that I seek to have it form into, which in the process of sales is, where's your credit card, your check, or your cash if you have two forms of ID.
Mhm.
So again, back to the short answer to your question is, it starts with mindset. My mind always says, I'm closing this person, I'm selling this person. Yeah, when I stand on a platform, my experience is I'm the best closer on any stage ever. I've never seen anybody that closes the percentages that I do. And I put anybody else to the challenge that says otherwise.
Mhm.
As you know, closing from the stage, as you were an FSR for Tony for years, and
Yeah.
doing 3,000 plus presentations, you're either out of business and broke and hungry, or you're really, really, really good. And
Mhm.
in your instance, and I think it was the humbleness of growing up the way that you did, certainly for me, that's what it was, that makes us moldable talent, makes us willing to say, okay, yeah, I'm excellent at what I do, except if I see anything in anybody that's better than me, so be it. Tony Robbins obviously is the most successful personal development coach of all time. There's no arguing with that. And as much as I don't want to admit it, I admit it. He's the most successful personal development coach in the history of the planet to this point. You know this, though, because you've worked closely with Tony, and this isn't an insult, it's an observation. Tony is not a good salesperson. He doesn't close from the stage, he doesn't sell from the platform.
Mhm.
So he made up for that lack of skill set that he doesn't possess in that area by leveraging a skill set he does as a leader, and
Mhm.
training and teaching and managing leaders that can also bring up his FSRs like you and be exceptional and build his organization. So the short answer to all of that is, we focus on what we do well, we acknowledge what we don't do well, and we don't let it go and say, okay, I'm just not good at that. We say, no, I need to find someone good at that.
Yeah.
I don't like working out anymore. I just don't. I'm at level
Mhm.
61 and I don't have fun working out. I love playing racquetball with my wife. I really love watching her run around a court in Lululemon shorts, chasing after my blue balls.
Mhm.
And that is fun for me.
Dude,
So I
I say this one thing to Tony's credit, though. I've heard, and I've got trainings of him coaching the team and him selling people when he's like in his mid 20s, and he was intense. He
yes,
was a hard closer, and every other word's F this. And
yes.
he was very intense, and he could close, but he would put you in. He was hard closer. I think as he got selling and got a brand, he didn't want to mess with his brand as a salesperson. And it was 2019. He had somebody else do the sales pitch, even for Master University, and it crushed. And Tony's kind of it's like if you want some pizza, you get a sniff of pizza, you want the pizza. But if I give you 15 hours a day of pizza, which is Tony Robbins, and you love pizza, and then he offers you more pizza. So they kind of started to tail Tony back. And he took out a lot of the hypnosis and stuff. People started saying this guy's manipulating us and all of that. So we tried to take some of that down, but just the way that he communicates is very hypnotic anyway. And so, but when you get that big and that famous, it doesn't matter if you're Mother Teresa, people are going to say you're a rapist or something. It's like when you get that big, you have a target on your back. So he's done the best that he can, I think, to kind of mitigate some of that. And some of it has meant not pushing the room and selling, because people take it in a certain way. That, yeah, I think that he could do it if that was his focus, but is building the brand at this point. And I coach the girl that does the events with him now, and she's trying to push people to the sell, and he's like, sell less. Like, that's too much sales. So I think there's a fear in him now as far as brand legacy. And
I would agree.
and it's
Let's enough about Tony. How
yeah,
about you?
yeah.
Tell me, what is your framework? I ask everybody that is involved in sales. I have a very specific framework that I believe the process of influence requires. And
Mhm.
that when it's inside the framework, influence is easy. And if any element of the frame isn't there, then it's almost impossible. What do you think are the steps to go through? You sit down with somebody, or you're in front of a group of people, or you're on the phone with somebody. What do you think are the steps of influence?
It's interesting. And, over the last few years, as high ticket space and coaching is blown up, and there's different methodologies and different famous sales trainers, I think connection and rapport, like a connection stage, and is important. And not, hey, where you're from, what's the weather, all of that, because that might communicate that you're not somebody important. So status is something there, but it's this rapport, meaning trust and responsiveness and respect, based on how you show up, your tonality, to put somebody at ease, but also know they're about to be led. And so that can be in the frame. And you probably know Kevin Nations,
Yeah, of
who's out
course.
there. Yeah,
He's
and
awesome.
yeah, when I went through his stuff maybe 10 years ago, that was eye-opening. And so I adopted a lot from him. And then I started to pull things from different trainers on their questions, Michael Oliver, Jeremy Miner, and I coach Jeremy 101 now on the speaking side. So we look at things holistically, because we do a lot of events. There's a back of room, there's a front of room. There's might be the person before the presentation, but even now all day we've been creating SOPs on the salespeople at the back, handling objections, things that are done in the middle to handle it. But as far as a conversation goes, there needs to be some sort of attraction or rapport. Typically there's some type of frame. With Kevin, it was rapid, it was his thing. It's like getting them there, setting the agenda of the call. I'm going to ask you some questions. I'm going to tell you how this, you can ask me any questions you like. And at the end of the call, let me know if this makes sense. So there is going to be some sort of connection, and then a frame, another way to say, like an agenda for the call that's going to shape the way the context of the entire meeting, like the expectations, and to put them at ease. From there, and some people go problem, goal, or some people go, goal, problem. We teach both. And a lot of times you'll get somebody on the phone if you're new in sales, or maybe you've got like somebody who's new in business. Hey, what's the biggest challenge? What's the concern? What's stopping you? Which I don't like that word, but why are you on the call? And they might say, I'm just looking for information. Okay, that's great. What's going on in your life that has you out here talking to strangers looking for information? And they might hem and haw even more. So sometimes they don't know what their problem is. So sometimes I see sales trainers try to go after the problem, but essentially what we're doing is we're looking for a gap between where they are, where they want to be. And we want to stretch that gap, create tension on that gap, link the gap to their identity. But, there's a connection stage, an opening, an agenda, a problem. We want to go deep into the problem, why they have the problem, the consequence of the problem, what caused the problem, the duration of the problem. We want to get to a goal, like what do they actually want? And we want to make that juicy and big so we can stretch that gap. And there's going to be a consequence section, like what's going to happen if you don't. There's going to be some kind of transition, and then I'll lead into an offer. And the offer, the pillars of the offer, we want to use as much of their language as we can in that offer, so it's not just some cookie cutter thing. And then there's going to be the ask, the commitment stage, and we frame that in a certain way. And then there's of course some objection handling. So that's typically it. And there's a million nuances in there, body language nuance, and Luke just popped up on here, and we talk hypnotic language and things that we can do, and things that you do so naturally. So there's a lot there. It's an endless rabbit hole. But ideally at the end, I believe that we're not just selling products or services, we're selling states and identities, and all decisions are state dependent. And so a big target in my mind in sales became, how do I put somebody in a state, a resource state, not just overloading them information, but how do I access that? And, I can have a service level conversation. So there's a syntax, but there's also a depth. There's like what we call a surface level, an action level, and an identity level. And so when we get to that identity level, like, why do you want this? What would this allow you to do versus who would this allow you to be? And when somebody's saying like, man, I feel like I'm not showing up great for my kids, yeah, this means I'd be a better father, that person's in what we call in pocket. So the syntax or the structure, relatively the same. I think you need to get a connection. You need to frame the call with expectations. Some of these things can change based on where somebody is. If they're really skeptical, if they're really hesitant, we might need to spend some time. We might need to give them the power. They're coming off really superior. So I might soften a bit. Okay, with your permission, if it's okay, permission-based language. But if somebody is 19 and they're really uncertain and they're just like, what do I do? I'm just going to tell them what to do. And so my sensory acuity and behavioral flexibility will change based on the context of that conversation where they're in, because I know that I'm content in their context and vice versa. And so I'm doing the best I can to control that frame. And these are small nuances right in the beginning, but those are the essential steps. So hopefully that was not too much of an answer.
No, I love it. I love it. And I'm always fascinated by the process of influence.
Yeah.
I'm forever a student. And I just, I'm watching a lot going on right now without going into politics in the first hour of watching people believe the most insane things right now.
Insane.
And it's crazy to me that people, when I see some of the things that people say is truth, I just look at them and I say, how did you come to that conclusion? That is fascinating. But, for me, one of the things, and you just touched upon it, you gave a really great point I want to make sure people heard. When you ask the question as an example, what stops you from doing this? That implies that they're stopped. And it implies that they're going to remain stopped. And then they start arguing for their position. And when you argue for your position, you got it.
Yeah.
I ask, what in the past caused you to not make the decision to go forward in your life? So that we not only frame it in the past, but we also use an embedded command to go forward in your life right now. And in that kind of a frame, it shifts everything. We call it a double impact probing question, because it not only has the impact of eliciting more information, it also has the impact of furthering along the process of influence. I just saw a post yesterday, and in anticipation of our conversation, I didn't say anything on the post. I have an opinion. Wanted to hear your opinion up front. And then if you're interested, tell you what my opinion is. What do you think about sales presentations that either tell people what the price point on the offer is? People know what the offer is. I'm selling this widget. Telling people what the price point is before they get on a sales call or into the sales presentation versus not telling them what the price point is, doing the whole presentation, selling them, and then saying, oh, by the way, here's the price point. Which do you think is more effective in the majority of time?
Regardless, you want to have a set price anchor in the beginning. And depending on the sophistication of the audience, I often say this. I just did an event. I got one coming up. And here's what I'm going to say in the beginning. Hey, you know how you come to a lot of webinars or training or 2-day events, and the speaker, they pretend like they're going to teach you a bunch of stuff, but they just kind of give you a bunch of BS and they don't teach you anything. And then they sell you hard at the end. I say, this is not that. In fact, I am going to sell you something. It's going to be more expensive than anything you've ever bought before. But my job is to just teach you as much as possible. And your job is at the end to decide if you want the learning to stop, because you need to pay attention here. So make sure you're really paying attention, because this will be one of the most valuable conversations you've ever had in your life. So I let them know an offer is coming. I let them know it's going to be expensive. And then I price anchor some things in my conversation with stories. People pay me this. And then there's a discount at the end, which now they're like, oh my God. So there's two things. In a presentation, that's what I do. But in a conversation, like say a sales conversation, is somebody the other day, like I've got an event coming up and I said, I can send you the sales paper. Just how much is it? I was like, this is the price. I just tell them, like, I'm not going to fight with you. And, I could go back and forth with like value and let's have a conversation. I'm like, this is what it is. But, if you're open to it, I'll share with you what we talk about there. And I'll actually show you some of the workbook of what we're going to go in the process. It's going to be a valuable call to you regardless. And if you want to move forward, great. If not, but I'm happy to do this for you. And so, yeah, it's if somebody, that's not how this works. And there's subtle things that you can do in a sales call. But if somebody is like, I see a lot of people do this in sales, where it's a young guy selling and it's like a 50-year-old man who's an 8-figure CEO. And he's high D. He's,
right.
And sometimes they just want the price.
Right.
I think it takes a bit of
get to the freaking point already is what they're thinking.
And there's somebody the other day that has some course. It's a Dr. Amen brain scan thing. Like I heard about it. I've got like 10 friends that have done it. I think it's like $5,000. And I contacted the company like 8 times. I'm like, I know it's this price. I want to do it. Like, sign me up. I think there's one in Hollywood. They said, yes. They said, well, you need to do a consult, fill out the form. I'm like, take my money. It's like, they got a whole process. And even in sales, when I see young, or I should say fearful, so it's not that they're young, fearful salespeople, they're so trying to be word perfect. They're connected to the script, not connected to the person. Yeah. And so I think in that frame, because you asked about the process, I think a lot in that happens in the first few minutes where they realize they're talking to a real person. And then when something goes off script, it's like, that's not my next question. Or they'll ask somebody a question about what's going on in their life. And they're like, yeah, my mom just died and things aren't that good right now. Okay, so what do you want in your life? They missed the vulnerable moment. I'm really sorry that happened, but it sounds like you're the kind of person who, listen, you deserve success. And so there's things that we can do in there to create that connection, because there's vulnerable, juicy moments. And it's not just about using those as leverage to sell them like ammunition to get them to move forward, but it's about having a conversation, being genuinely interested and empathetic. And I realized for myself a long time ago, this thing called sales and speaking, I realized about 3-4 years into it, I was like, I'm going to be doing this 60, 70 hours a week for the rest of my life, talking to strangers. I get more out of it. For me, it's a selfish thing, but I get more out of it if I actually care about the people. If I'm going to spend the majority of my life with these people, even though they're strangers to me, I want to care about them. And so I tell people like, hey, I care about you. And I do care about them, but I also care about them because I want to care about where I'm spending my life. And so I'm like, hey, regardless if you like me or not, I still care about you, because this is a moment in our lives that we're never getting back. And like, let's cherish this moment. Let's have a connection here. And at the end of the day, even if somebody says, screw you, I don't like you, I'm like, I appreciate that you were that bold, and that
you were paying attention to me.
Yeah. And I'm going to work with that. But I'm like, let's have a real unscripted, like a moment here. Let's dig into it. And if somebody comes at me like that, I'm like, let's get into it. And if they come at me too strong, they might get a lesson they don't like, because I've done this thousands of times. So there's not too much I haven't seen. And I can always learn.
I want to interrupt you real quick. You gave a couple really good things there, and I want to make sure people are paying attention. In fact, one of them I wrote down because it was so good, I will utilize it. Two things you said. I would agree with you. I asked, do you tell people the price up front? You didn't, but you did say it's more expensive than any other offer that you're going to see, which immediately manages their expectation and braces them. And they say, okay, great. Now I can hear a number. Whereas if you had just given that big number later on, they would have said, oh my God, that's too big. But now, because you did that, they're likely to say, oh, when they hear the number, oh, that wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. Yeah. So already we're in a good place. But you said something else, and you said something else.
The frame is us versus them. You know how a lot of other people do that? They just pretend they're going to teach you, and then they just sell you. They don't teach you anything, and then they just try to push you into sell. This is not that.
Yes.
I'm
I
gonna
call
teach
that
as much as I can.
non-covert sales.
Okay.
Non-covert. I'm not going to be covert. I'm here to sell you something, which is exactly what you said. You know, I'm
Mhm.
not going to pretend. My desire would be my content and what I teach you is so great. You're glad that I'm going to sell you something. I wanted to share though and make sure everybody was listening and wrote it down because it was powerful. I'm going to teach you and then I'm going to make an offer at the end, all honest, upfront, no, which only gains rapport. You know, the person that doesn't say they're going to sell something and then sneaks it in the end and you watch their entire physiological state change, their butt cheeks go tight, their voice goes up an octave when they make their offer. It's like, dude, we were together until you became this other person. But
Mhm.
you said something. You said, I'm going to teach you all this. And then at the end of my presentation, you can decide if you want the learning to stop.
No.
Drop the mic. That's powerful. You
Mm.
decide if you want the learning to stop because the psychological thing is, no, I don't want this goodness to stop in my life. No, tell me what I need to do to make sure that it continues. That's powerful stuff. Way to go. What are your thoughts? You
And
know,
that being, I
again,
said this one thing too, because I want everybody to see. Also, when I say other people do that, I'm starting to create other people. What are other people going to tell you to do? People have opportunities. What do they say? So I'm starting to create that enemy out there too. It's like an us versus them, other people. And based on NLP, there's like parts integration, separation. There's a part of you that this. There's a part of you that that. There's a part of you that no matter how something it is, there's a part of you that always wants you to do something else. It's the moment that you see something great, you got to look at your phone. You got to go to the bathroom. So I'm starting to create this us versus them, internally and externally, even within themselves, to recognize these parts. And so I'm sure there's a part of you that wants more for your life that's been committed. I want to speak to that part of you now. So I'm starting to look at the parts of this, and I see you do a lot of this as well. Yeah. So sorry to
yeah,
interject. Yeah.
yes, solid stuff. I like to tell people the entire retail investment up front. I tell
Mm.
them right off the bat, but then what I also tell them is the investment is X. Of course, that's not the investment you're going to make. I'm going to
Mm.
take great care of you and I'm going to give you a better than money back guarantee. So not only am I going to take great care of you, they've overcome the initial resistance of the price point. I'm going to reduce the price point, or if I'm not going to reduce the price point, I say, of course, that is the investment that you're going to make, and I imply and assume they're going to make the investment. And I'm also going to give you massive amounts of bonuses, in addition, some ways to get an immediate return on investment on that investment. And when you do it that way, and you keep layering every assumption that they're going to make this decision to buy from you, that's when it happens. Again, I did Jordan Belfort's podcast twice, and
Yeah.
he's an interesting character.
Sure.
One of the things that we chatted about that I wholeheartedly agree with is so many times salespeople get off track. They don't remember what they were there for. And the salesperson forgets, I'm here to get a credit card. I'm here to, get a check. I'm here to get cash. And they say, no, I'm here to change people's lives. Well, yeah, that's your secondary outcome. But
Mm.
if your first outcome isn't to sell, which is what you're there to do, then you'll never get to your second one ever.
Yeah.
You just won't get there because no one bought.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes people have a sense from their previous programming that selling is dirty and that
Mm.
selling is bad and sleazy. And what are your thoughts on that?
That's true. And I know this from experience in the Tony Robbins world, because people see Tony Robbins, they work for Tony Robbins, they're a speaker for Tony Robbins, they want to be Tony Robbins. And then they go into a company where their job is to sell people into Tony Robbins, but they would go in there, I'm going to change your life. Like, this is where I change your life, because they wanted to get the significance of selling. But I'm like, that's
Right.
not your role. And so I was really clear in what I was doing. And I, referrals, tracking, like systems, process. My first sales course, we called it the sales CEO, because I ran it like a business. And I know that no business survives. And even now, part of the thing I sell entrepreneurs on, I'm like, look, business is expensive. There's accounting, there's marketing, there's team, it's expensive. There's only one part of your business that brings in money. It's sales. And if you're not good at this, all that dies. I don't want to hear
Nothing
about you
else
changing
matters.
lives. Like, this is it. Money's the fuel for your business. And if you do not know how to have conversations that convert, your dreams are going to die. And you're not. So I'm like really strong. And I say this in my presentation when I speak on big stages too, because I want that hierarchy of the value. Like, my thing is the most important thing. So I want them to see, and it's all in the framing. If I was teaching skill set, I would make them believe that skills are most important. If it was mindset, I'd make them believe that mindset's most important. Whatever my thing is that I'm selling, I'm starting to create that logic chain that this is the most important thing, often because I was selling against other people at multi-speaker events like you. So I needed them to realize that my thing. I did an event with Jordan Belfort. I spoke right after him, and I got all the sales in the room. I was really fortunate. I spoke right after him. I came right on stage. They said, "Do you want Jordan to go, then have a break?" I said, "No, as soon as he speaks, I'm going right out," because I didn't want them going back to the room. And I did a few things in the framing of my talk, building on what he did. And so I cleaned up. It was in Norway. But yeah, it's like the syntax of the events, all of it, where you take people through, getting them to realize that your thing's the most important is all crucial.
You're awesome. And you're up in LA, correct?
No, I live in Miami now. Yeah, this is my, I don't know if you can see that. That's the view. That's the water out there. You can kind of see it.
Well, lovely.
Yeah.
We have that in common. We like being waterfront.
Yeah. LA was home for a long time. But now I'm out here, and I will be at your event next month.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'm excited. You're going to love Turning Point, and you're going to love the sales process. Again, I do not withhold the fact that I am there to make offers. I do not withhold the fact that I'm there to close and sell people. And again, one of my philosophies is, if you don't believe in what you're selling to the degree that you feel obligated to sell it, you need to sell something different. Because you can sell anything. You might as well sell something that you're doing people a favor for when they buy it. Any last words before we wrap up this remarkable time we've had together?
Just that it's great to connect with you. You're a true master at what you do. And I think in the last week you had talk with Marcel, Josh, he's been in all of our programs, Josh Lyons, those guys. Yeah. So yeah, I've been seeing your name pop up, and Luke is the one that connected us, and he's a brilliant young man. So I just hear nothing but good things, and excited to be able to share this content with your community and connect with you deeper in Vegas.
Well, I am massively excited to see you in Vegas. And when you get there, I have a gift for you. I have 10 ounces of pure Marshall silver that I want to hand you in person when you come join me in Vegas. Awesome. So thanks for being on the show, Eli. You are amazing. How do people get a hold of you if they want to connect deeper with you? If they decide they want the learning to continue?
Yeah. The website's Wilde Influence. We're just dialing in marketing ourselves. We've pretty much done everything word of mouth, and we've been pretty full, but now we've got a whole team and events. But Facebook is where most people find me, but we got Instagram. It's Eli Wilde _sales is it. And then wildeinfluence.com is the website. And we got tons of free stuff on there.
Well, you are awesome, man. Thanks so much for being on the show. And I look forward to seeing you in person in Las Vegas at Turning Point next month.
Perfect. See you then. Thank you.
You bet. Take care, my friend. Wow. Yeah, it just keeps getting better. We just have the best guests on this show, and I'm having so much fun. I don't know about you. I'm learning. Every single day I take notes and I learn so much, and it's an awesome thing. We're only going to keep getting better. We are coming to the close. This is week 5. So this is episode 25 since we launched the program, and we're breaking records. We're absolutely crushing, and it's all because of you. So I very much appreciate you being on the show. You know what happens in the next hour? We're going to go to the vault. And I wasn't sure we were going to be able to do the show today. I woke up at 5:30, and there was massive amounts of rain here in Southern California. And sometimes the internet gets messed up. We're right by the beach, and for whatever reason, if there's too much weather, sometimes we get some grief on our internet. This morning, when I woke up and I had that, water everywhere. It was massively soaking wet everywhere. I was going to go out into the spa and the sauna like I normally do. And I wasn't even willing to weather the storm because the rain was coming down so hard, except I looked out the window, and the most beautiful, vibrant rainbow I have ever seen in my entire life was directly in the middle of the giant picture window in the master suite of my beach house. And when I looked at that, I said, you know what? It's going to be a good day in every single way. We're going to take a short break, let you know a little bit about the events coming up for Certainty International that you can attend. Just like Eli mentioned, he's coming to Turning Point next month in Vegas. When we come back, I'm going to go into the vault where we can talk about sex, money, and power, those things that are important to you. If you'd like to get on the air, potentially say the secret word and win $8,500, maybe win 10 ounces of pure silver, then go to studiomoney.info/live guests. I'll see you on the other side of this.
Turning Point. A total change in direction for the better.
Who here is ready for a turning point? You absolutely have to have one. Put them high.
The 2-day Turning Point seminar is different than any other program in that it does more than just teach you the skills for your relationships, wealth, and power. It also programs you on a subconscious level to put those skills into immediate use.
This weekend is about empowerment. This weekend is about you understanding how to take charge of your own life.
You will learn total control of your thoughts and emotions. How to use PND, or psychoneural duplication, to take on the thoughts and actions of others to produce similar results. Whether it's losing weight, changing habits, being a millionaire.
When you think what a millionaire thinks and you do what a millionaire does, you'll produce similar results.
You will learn to program these powerful tools at a subconscious level for immediate and lasting results.
Your conscious mind is what's called your critical factor. It's the mind you're using right now to determine whether the information I'm giving to you will work for you or not. Your subconscious mind, on the other hand, is merely a computer. It's non-critical. It doesn't even have the ability to make judgment. So all trance, hypnosis, reprogramming is setting aside the critical factor of your conscious mind and non-critically accepting suggestions.
And empowering.
To make a fear vanish, you must experience it fully.
As it helps you create your life exactly the way you want it. Bring your family closer. Find the love of your life. Create strategies for wealth. Learn irresistible influence and so much more. Because of the intimate nature of this course, seats are very limited. Register now before your life passes you by and there are no more turning points for you. Tens of thousands of people have learned this information and are using it daily.
You don't get angry if you get fired from your job and you know that within 2 years you will be a multi-millionaire.
It's your time.
There's a way for you to win this game that is different than how you're doing it, and it works.
It's your life.
When you learn how to do that, you become more powerful, and power is for use.
It's your turning point.
Isn't it time for your first million? Wouldn't it be wonderful to be able to do what you love and learn how to monetize that on a 7-figure level? Do you want to know exactly what you need to do and what not to do to have your biggest year ever? If not now, when? First Million. A 2-day subconscious learning experience that both teaches and programs you with the personality traits and habits of multimillionaires. At First Million, you'll learn how to take almost any wealth vehicle to a 7-figure level or better. You'll learn how to stop using vehicles that don't work, are too difficult, or simply unsuited for you. Making money is supposed to be fun. Stop living your life, getting ready to live your life, and start living a life of adventure. First Million was crafted to not just change what you do, it's also going to change who you are. Instead of trying to become a millionaire, you'll learn that you're already a millionaire, even if the money has not yet been deposited in your bank account. Beyond mindsets, you'll learn the actual personality traits of multimillionaires, so you'll naturally do what millionaires do to produce a similar result. One of the key personality traits of a millionaire is charisma. Imagine being able to walk into a room and without speaking a word, have the entire room drawn to you. Imagine others hanging on your every word, wanting to be near you, to be in business with you, and hungry to buy whatever you're selling. First Million will teach you how to use the charisma that politicians, entertainers, CEOs, and celebrities use to move nations and make millions. You'll also learn how to get more done in less time. You'll learn priority management and what the highest and best use of your time is. You'll learn laser-like focus upon IGAs, or income-generating activities, and you'll learn to let go of anything below your pay grade. What if you had more customers than you ever imagined? What if they came right to you and fought to buy from you? At First Million, you'll learn attraction marketing and strategies to get others to pay you for your marketing and advertising before they even purchase your offer. When you attend Your First Million, you'll begin to see an overwhelming amount of amazing opportunities all around you. You'll look through the matrix and easily identify target-rich environments. You'll learn dovetailing and stacking strategies to acquire more customers and do more business with the customers you already have. Unless something is sold, no money is made. Whether you're a sales pro, a novice, or even scared to death of selling something, Your First Million is going to have you fall in love with influence and enjoy it as the game that it is. When you believe in what you're selling, you're obligated to sell it. You'll learn exact language patterns of influence and persuasion. You'll learn how to get others to ask you for what you're selling and have them believe it was their idea. You'll become dynamically able to use arcing statements, direct links, embedded commands, and so much more. An entire tool belt of selling gambits will be yours after you get to Your First Million. As a First Million alumni, you will be clear on what you need to do to GTFM or get the freaking money. You deserve great wealth, and Your First Million will help to raise your self-esteem around the topic of money. The amount of money you make will always be determined by your own self-image. You'll learn what billion-dollar corporations already know about outsourcing, how to get anything below your pay grade done for pennies on the dollar. Your First Million will give you the groundwork to understand presentation skills and the highest paid profession on the planet, public speaking. When you graduate from Your First Million, you'll be able to create presentations that inspire with confidence and power. If all that weren't enough, there's so much more. Making Your First Million is almost certainly going to require that you manage at least a small team. You'll walk out of the course with the knowledge of how to lead teams and synergistically get more done in less time. Technology has made our lives so much easier as we've learned how to harness it. The First Million course will teach you what is up to date and available in technology so that you can use that cutting-edge technology to get more done and have more fun. You'll also learn how to harness the power of the internet for massive passive profits. Every time you attend Your First Million, you'll learn new technology and internet marketing strategies as these two portions of the class change every time you attend. It's like getting a brand new seminar each time you come. If you're a representative, you may attend Your First Million as often as you like, totally free, with your enrollment in the First Million course. If you're not yet a rep, or if you have not yet invested in Your First Million, enroll now. Everything begins in thought, and you know what you want to say. Go ahead, say it now. Say it out loud. I'm ready for my first million.
Say it out loud. I'm ready for my first million. Yes, I'd like this to be your first million or your best millions year. And I want to be the guy that does it. We are getting really close to launching I Am the Next Multimillionaire TV show. And for those of you that hadn't heard, back in 2019, I take that back, not 2019, forgive me, 2021, when I was lying in the hospital after my open heart surgery. I started thinking about how many days I have left on the planet, frankly, and how many people I would like to help. And I came up with the idea to do a TV show where in real time, I make people into millionaires, take them from just average, just okay. I'm not talking about out of the welfare line or unemployment line. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about taking average people, regular people that maybe are working a $40,000-$50,000 a year job and say, okay, how do we take these people that are willing to work and make them millionaires within 120 days? So at any rate, we're going to do that. We were going to do it back when COVID and the lockdowns occurred. And I said, I'm not doing this thing with masks on. We're negotiating for a number of properties here in the Southwest to put a studio in, a genuine video, movie, television studio. And one of the first projects we'll do is I Am the Next Multimillionaire. 13 episodes, 120 days of live turning people into millionaires. I'd like you to be one of them. In the meantime, though, you can get your advice from me right here live. And the first question I'm going to do today is not from a live viewer. If you'd like to be a live viewer, go to studiomoney.info/live guest to get on the show. That's the only way you can be in the running to win either the silver or the $8,500 up for grabs today. We had a question come in via email, and I like this question. Marcus Reed says, how do you become successful in business and maintain a competitive edge in a saturated market? I've been running a local coffee shop for 5 years, facing increasing competition from big chains and new artisan coffee shops. I'm looking for a strategy to stand out without compromising my values. Great question. And it always comes down to one simple answer. How do we compete? We've got to figure out what's our unique marketing strategy. What is the thing that makes us unique? Going back to The Next Multimillionaire, the reason I came up with the TV show is right before I went in for open heart surgery, I was watching a TV show called Undercover Billionaire. And Grant Cardone and two other women whose names escape me were on the show. It was the second season of a show that had been done the previous season where Grant and these other women got dropped off in some random city, $100 in their pocket, blank cell phone, meaning had none of their database, none of their contacts in the cell phone. And they were tasked with creating $1 million company inside of 90 days. I'm a fan of Grant Cardone. Don't get me wrong. Right up there with Tony Robbins, done phenomenal things in a different way. Grant is amazing, astounding. I'll even give him that. Remarkable. I wasn't impressed with the show. And here's the reason I wasn't impressed with the show, twofold. The value of a company of $1 million is subjective. It's not really hard and fast, whereas $1 million in the bank account, that's hard and fast. You can go to the bank account, you can look at the amount and say, yep, that's $1 million. So to value a company at $1 million is a different equation. That's the first thing. Second thing, I'm already impressed with Grant Cardone. I don't need to watch him make $1 million. I'm already impressed. So the fact that he made another $1 million after he's already made hundreds of $1 million was not impressive to me. What would be impressive to me is for a regular person to do it. Somebody who'd never made $1 million before. That was where The Next Multimillionaire was born. But back to the question about coffee. You know, when I read the question, I was thinking about the first time I traveled from Michigan to California at 12 years old. From Michigan to San Diego at 12 years old. When we were driving in the car along the freeway, obviously we would stop and eat from time to time. And the places that we stopped to eat the most were the signs for the coffee shops alongside of the freeway that said free coffee. Now, even though I was only 12 years old, that was when I had my first cup of coffee. The fact, though, that it said free coffee was the reason my mother selected those restaurants over other restaurants. Everything is cyclical. And the fact that it had free coffee, nobody stops alongside the freeway to go in for a cup of free coffee, or at least not very many people do. And even the ones that do and don't buy a meal, the coffee was what? 3 cents, 5 cents? In those days, nothing. And these days, max cost for a cup of coffee, regular coffee, 10 cents max. And 90% or more of the people that stop in for the free cup of coffee also buy a meal. So what a brilliant idea. Everything's cyclical. Many years ago, somebody had the idea of not giving the coffee away for free. In fact, going to the other end of the spectrum. They said, we're going to charge a premium for a cup of coffee. And Starbucks is born. Well, you know, Starbucks is decent coffee. It's decent. I've had better cups of coffee in diners, though. So while it's a decent cup of coffee, that's not what people are buying. People are buying the ability to say, I just paid $4 for a cup of coffee. And as dumb as that sounds, it's not. Here's why it's not dumb. I tell people all the time, I drive a $450,000 Rolls Royce Phantom. Why do I tell people that? Because I did it. Because I can. You know, people buy designer bags and things with labels for the label only. It's not a better bag. It's not a better watch. It's just a designer watch with a label so we can tell people, yes, I'm rich enough, I'm successful enough that I can have this thing. So Starbucks played on that. They said, look, we're going to sell people $3, $4, $5, $12 cups of coffee, and they're going to be glad we did. In fact, they're going to be proud of it. And so what they created was a culture where people go there, not only buy their cup of coffee, they were also wise enough to know we're not looking for turnover. In fact, just the opposite. We'd like people to park it here. We'd like it to be socially exciting to go to Starbucks, set up your laptop, talk to other people who might be there with their laptop set up. So in answer to the question that he just asked me, let me go back. Who was it that asked me the question? Going back, Marcus Reed asked me the question, how do I compete in my coffee shop with all these other artisan coffee shops and brands? And here's what you do. Don't compete. Be unique. And I always tell people that. Don't compete. Don't have any competition. Be unique. How can you be unique? I have a client of mine whose wife makes the most delicious, healthy snacks. What kind of snacks? Cookies and pastries, and they're remarkable. They're absolutely delicious. Laura makes these healthy snacks. The challenge is they're healthy. And that's both the pro and the con. The fact that they're healthy, immediately anybody that's not healthy says, how good could they be? And they're remarkable. In fact, I tell my student, you shouldn't give my family samples because I eat them all. They're really good. But I told them, how do you compete? Because they have a coffee shop. They sell these snacks to coffee shops. I said, the coffee should be free. Make the coffee free. Make that the billboard. Make that the ad. Unlimited free coffee. Don't pay a dime. I mean, in other places, the coffee is the profit margin. If I go buy breakfast someplace and I order coffee, the coffee's $3, even though, once again, the hard cost was 8 cents or less. The coffee's free. Come on in. Free coffee. Make it a place, much like Starbucks has, that is social. But unlike Starbucks, and this is something I'm actually going to do because the idea is so good, unlike Starbucks, who attracts just any random crowd for the free coffee, I say put up monitors that don't have the local weather or news or sportscasts or drama. Put up videos that have business and personal development content like this show that play while the coffee is being given away free. Yes, have snacks, have sandwiches, have food, have other things. Hell, upsell seminars, sell motivational books and tapes and training programs so that you attract a crowd that's a would and a could, a target-rich environment, not the crackheads that end up going to Starbucks. And I'm not saying everybody that goes to Starbucks is a crackhead. There's a few, though, because I've seen their needles in the bathroom. And don't attract that crowd. Attract a professional crowd, which is where I think Starbucks started, not where it is today. So how do you compete in the face of massive competition that has more money than you do? Don't compete on anything other than the experience, because people will always pay more for a better experience. There we go. Hey, I'm going to go live into the studio. If you're not in the green room waiting for me to come say hello to you, all you got to do, go to studiomoney.info/live guests. And there you can chat with me. We've got Lamar Saunders in the green room ready to speak. Welcome home. Glad you're on the air.
Hey, Marshall, how you doing?
I'm always awesome.
Always.
What's your question today?
Yeah, so I love this week's guest that you had, starting
It's
with
been great. They've all been on topic for me. They've been a lot of salespeople, and I love salespeople.
starting with Marcel. He you said in an interview, first of all, I love everything hypnosis. Like, I'm like this hypnosis junkie. I watch people who know hypnosis, they know that you're like top. And then you said to Marcel, you said you hypnotized your wife before she was your wife to ask you out, and at your event, and she didn't even know, nobody knew. So I had to know, like, how in the world did you actually do that?
That's a good question. And I talk about it openly and freely. And my wife knows that I hypnotized her to ask me out on a date. What happened was right before the event, it was in Boston. There were 1,000 people at Turning Point, and I had asked God to give me wisdom to make better decisions in my romantic life. And I got a clear message from God. One solid thing God said, ask me for someone kind. Just ask me for someone that doesn't do drama. And I realized that that was the challenge in my relationships. I thought drama was a part of a romantic relationship. And so I said, God, help me make better decisions. He said, ask for no drama. So I said, great, God, no drama. I come out, walk through the room. There's 1,000 people there. And 4 rows back on the inside aisle, I saw the most beautiful woman. She took my breath away. And you've got to qualify your prospects before you close them. So the first thing I said is, who here is single and would love to create an awesome, passionate relationship? Well, I pointed at myself. Just put your hand up. She didn't put her hand up. She just looked at me and smiled. Well, that tells me she's not single. I said, okay, I'm not done yet. Got to play with the resistance. I said, who here is in a relationship and wants more passion in that relationship? And I shook my head from side to side. Not only did she not put her hand up to say she was in a relationship, she looked away and didn't respond. That let me know that she was in a relationship that she didn't want more passion in, that I was banking on she wanted to end. So I said, game on, baby. And so I walked out into the audience, and I'm teaching the audience the content that I'm teaching, except I'm also anchoring to myself. And I'm saying, I walk right up in front of her. We've never met, so she doesn't, know that I'm walking up in front of her. But I stand right in front of her while I'm talking to everybody else in the room. And I said, there come times when you see exactly what you want right in front of you. In fact, it's so close to you, you could reach out and touch it. And I just held my hand out in front of her while I was talking to the room, and she kind of giggled and reached out and touched my hand, and the whole room laughed. And then I continued to anchor myself to her desires while I turned up her desire. Then when we went to break, I said, hey, we're about to go to break. And when we go to break, I want all of you to know that I'm on break too, so do not approach me. And then I looked her square in the eyes and I said, there may be one of you, though, that knows you must approach me, that both of our lives are dependent upon you being bold now, walking up and asking me out on a date. And so for the rest of you, enjoy your break. I'll see you in 15 minutes. So I go and I sit down on the stage while we're on break, have a sip of my coffee. And I see everybody stand up and leave to go to their break. Erica, my wife, stands up, starts to walk away, turns around like she's going to come to me, turns back toward the back of the room to walk away, shrugs her shoulder, walks up to me and says, I know you don't like to be bothered on your break, and I'm not really sure why I'm doing this. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I know why you're doing this. And she said, but if you're, staying in this hotel and you'd like to get together for a cup of coffee after the seminar, I'd be interested. And I said, well, if staying in this hotel is a prerequisite, I will have my staff move me. And the fact was, it wasn't that I needed, I had a date already. I had already flown a woman in from New York City to spend the weekend with me. And I was going to dinner with her that night. I said to Erica, I have plans for dinner. Let me go to dinner. I'll call you after dinner. To do that, I need your cell phone number. So I went to dinner with the person that I had flown in to spend the weekend with me. And I said, something's come up. It would be a lie if I spent the weekend with you. I would be using you, and I don't want to do that. So I can either put you on a jet, send you back home. I can put you up in another hotel room, whatever you want, but you can't stay with me. And I did. And then I called Erica up, and as they say, as fate would have it, turns out she was staying in the room directly across the hallway from my room. We didn't know it. We were staying directly across the hallway from my room. And I told her, if we go down to the cafe or to the bar, there's 1,000 people from the seminar. We won't get any privacy. Would you feel comfortable coming to my suite? And she said, yes. Pretty smooth, right? She said, yes. Yeah. And she came by. And as they say, the rest is history. We spent 3 hours talking. She told me she was in a relationship, living with a guy. She was miserable, didn't know how to break it off, and didn't know what to do. And we became friends. And over the next month or so, we remained friends. We talked on the phone. She'd come visit at seminars and watch the events. And 17 plus years later, here we are. So I realized you weren't asking to know my story. You were asking, how do I hypnotize my gal to fall in love with me? I get it.
Well, I at one point right now I'm actually single.
I know.
But, at one point she asked me, she's like, did you hypnotize me? How did you make me feel this way? And but it was just a lot of like subtle embedded commands and really just the confidence of the commands and knowing where you want the relationship to go. But and I think you're the best at like embedded commands, the way that you speak them with like boldness. It's really amazing. But
I've
so
not known it. I've not known anybody that utilizes them in the same way that we do. And yeah, I would agree. And on the topic of hypnotizing someone to fall in love with you, sometimes people think, "Oh my God, I can't believe you did that." Well, you did that too. Except you didn't realize. I don't mean just you. I mean the global you. Everybody does that. We hypnotize people to fall in love with us because being in love with somebody is a buying decision. I chose to marry Erica. I chose and choose every day to be in love with my wife because that's the choice that I want. It's the best choice. She's beautiful. She's smart. She's funny. She's enjoyable to be near. She's insanely sexy. Checks every single box. But those are boxes I choose to check off. And so, if somebody criticizes me, "Oh, you hypnotized your wife. Why, you couldn't get her any other way?" No, that's the only way anybody gets a wife. You hypnotize her to want to be your wife. You close her, you sell them on choosing you as their mate. And if people aren't choosing you, you're also hypnotizing them to not choose you. So if you're not chosen a whole lot of times, then stop and say, what is it about me that needs to change? And when you figure that out, everything gets easier. You're calling from what city?
Edmonton, Alberta.
Lovely. Well, welcome back. Glad you're here. And you keep listening and see if you don't win silver today. Have you won silver from me before?
Very soonly I will.
Very soon you will. That's good hypnosis. All right, my friend, you take care.
Take
We
care.
are going to take our next call. Have a good day. Awesome callers. Hey, our next caller is, let me take a look and see what it is. Carlos Laros. Welcome.
Hey,
You're live on the
Marshall.
air.
This
Where
is
are
the
you
third
calling it?
time.
Where are you calling in from?
Miami, Florida, right now.
It seems to be the thing. All the best looking people are moving to Miami, man.
Yes, we are.
Hey, hold on one second. I want to thank my wife. Thank you for the libation. I have been thirsty the entire show. What's your question?
Well, Marshall, when I met you 5 years now, you hypnotized me to believe in myself. I was at that moment struggling financially. I was doing a job that I hate, and I was reading. I became a high performance reader at that moment, and I started reading and consuming books about hypnosis and personal development, sort of stuff. At one point, you start doing live on Instagram. You remember that was those were lovely Instagram lives because you did it in front of the beach, and that was awesome. Those were very inspiring. And one time you put me on live, and you make me believe that if in my soul I'm not meant to be working for anybody else, I just has to be myself and being a coach and expert development and all the stuff. Turns out you give me 2 tickets to Turning Point that moment for me and my wife. We
Yeah.
went to Vegas. You hypnotized myself. At that moment, I remember clearly that at that moment I was afraid to speak in public. That was like a phobia. I could not speak in front of not a single person. You did your magic on me at that moment. And at that time, I became a public speaker. And then soon after, like 1 month or two after Turning Point, I did my first gig. It was
Bravo.
75 people in the room. Everybody standing ovation and everybody asking how long I've been speaking in public. Turns out that was my first gig ever speaking before. Time went by. I've been doing some coaching, some I became a hypnotist, a certified with many people, Dave Snyder, Mike Mandel. I went to Tony events and other people and applying all the stuff that I learned with you. And I have pretty decent success. I've been closing and making some deals. At this moment in my life, I came back because I'm kind of a cycle again. Turns out the business is not doing so well. Kind of a turning point again. I have to decide what to do. For some reason, the conversation you had with Marcel just make me think differently about making money using hypnosis. Although I've been hypnotizing people, I have an office and I have a coach and only close friends or refer people that my friends send to me. I have some success with them. I make some amazing change on their health, their success. I don't know why I'm still sabotaging myself and not understanding that this can be a way to become a millionaire. I For some reason I'm not seeing the numbers. Your conversation with Marcel make me think differently about that. Although, you remember in the first live you told me that English is not my first language. I don't know if you
Right.
remember
I
that.
do. I
Yeah,
recall.
and that's true. I've been applying all the stuff that I learned in English from different mentors, books, or on seminars, and I've been applying that in Spanish. And turns out it's something that the people needs. It's
Yes.
something that it's absolutely a must. But I don't know. Maybe I need another adjustment on my mindset to see the possibility to became a millionaire doing that. I mean, I'm in a better position right now. I have my own property, have some investments, but I don't have the liquidity right now. And I'm seeing like I'm again in the same spot when I met you. So here I am.
You're not though. You're not in the same spot. You're not even close, actually. You're heads and tails above, but you're also at the next level. And every time one of our programs, the first seminar I created, is the one you attended called Turning Point.
Yes.
And it's called Turning Point because it best describes what the outcome of the event is. I've got to take a turn and look at my world from a different point of view.
Mhm.
The next program I created 40 years ago was called The Next Level. And it was called The Next Level because it's very much like being at the base of a set of stairs and you step up to the first step. Your point of view is different. Even though it's not the top of the stairs, your point of view is different on that first step. And then when you take the next step, the next level, every next level is a different point of view, which comes with not only different observations, it comes with different challenges. And so your challenge is you discovered what you love. You love hypnosis.
Oh
I
yes.
remember I remember when you came out and attended the event, I know that you liked it more than your girlfriend did. And it's more your stuff than it's her stuff, and that's all well and good.
She didn't
I don't
understand English though in that moment. She
well,
now is
good.
learning English a little bit more. She was there for me. She didn't
Wow.
understand a single word.
Well, how awesome is your girlfriend then?
Oh my god, she's the
Yeah,
best.
and it doesn't matter whether she was into it or not. The fact that she supported you was the point I was making. She was there, you were into it, and she supported you.
Yes,
Here's the other piece though. You've learned hypnosis. You haven't learned the business of hypnosis. And
exactly.
another attendance at Turning Point, and frankly, some additional training from us is what you need. And that's what the conversation with Marcel the other day got you so excited about. Is you said to yourself, wow, I like this and I want more of this. And I love doing what I do. How the freak do I make money with this now?
Exactly.
And I see this all the time with hypnotists, even successful hypnotists. Marcel certainly has had massive success with what he's done. And there's zero doubt in my mind that I can multiply him 5 to 10 times within 30 days based on the distinctions we've been doing for 40 years. There's another hypnotist that I'm a big fan of. He's also a student of mine, Dom the hypnotist. And so, Dom's online. If you're checking anybody else out online, definitely check out Dom. He's created a structure. I haven't chatted with him for a few months. Last we talked, in his online business, he was doing about $300,000 a month, about $120,000 net every single month. And this is before I taught him how to do live events. When I taught him how I do live events, the first event we did together, about 70 people in the room and about $850,000 in gross sales. So basically 3 months of sales for him without having to do ad spend, without any of the rest of that. So the answer to your circumstance is twofold. Number one, you got broke clients who are coming to you for the wrong reason. And I see a lot of first time hypnotists doing that. They're either, or you've got clients that have money that are still coming to you for the wrong reason. When you take a look at a conversation, when you take a look at the things that you're teaching, you've got to ask yourself, is this a hard topic or is this a soft topic? A hard topic is something you can do the math on. A soft topic is subjective. So a soft topic might be, how much would it be worth to you to lose the fat? Well, that's a soft topic. A soft topic might be, how much would it be worth to you to have your wife love you more? That's a soft topic. If I say to you, will you give me $5,000 to teach you how to make $10,000 today? Meaning, give me five. By the end of the day, you'll have 10. Well, that's a hard topic. That's just math. That's easy. If I say, will you give me a $500,000 today to guarantee give you $1,000,000 by the end of the day today? Well, if I have a track record and you trust me and you believe I can actually do what I'm telling you to do, then you'd be an idiot not to hand me the $500,000 to turn it into $1,000,000 by the end of the day. So what you've got to do, Carlos, is you've got to figure out in every single one of your presentations, how can I take this and turn this into a hard topic? Have you
Okay.
watched my webinar yet?
Yes.
So if you watch the webinar, I ask two questions at the beginning of that webinar. I say, if all Turning Point did was made you 10 times more confident, would it be worth the retail investment of $3,000? I need my prospect, my audience, my buyers, my customers, I need them to acknowledge that, yes, 10 times the confidence would be worth a $3,000 investment. It's not enough for me to say it. They've got to say it in their own minds. And then the second thing I say is, if all Turning Point did was made you 10 times more influential, 10 times more able to sell, would it be worth $3,000? I need you to say yes. If I ask the question, I need you to give me an affirmative answer, because if I haven't communicated to you in such a way that you believe that to be true, then I haven't communicated enough to close you either. Once you've said yes to those two questions, then I have to help you understand, believe, and come to the conclusion that Turning Point's going to make you 10 times more influential. It's going to make you 10 times more confident, therefore is easily worth the $3,000 investment at a retail level. When all of those have been done, then your buying decision's already been made. The only question is, how do you want to take care of the investment? So that is your dilemma. I don't care how good a hypnotist you are. The challenge is, whatever transformation or change you're promising, the people that are coming to you don't think is worth more money. Therefore, they're not giving you more money. Does that make sense to you?
It makes sense. But I'm not doing right now live events at all. I have more than 1.5 years. I don't do anything like that. Just small like workshops for some clients that say, "Hey, I need you to train my people for be more confident or be more influential," and I teach some basics of hypnosis, language patterns, some stuff. But I have a very good friend that he is. I hypnotize him. He was broke. Now he's making money. He's not millionaire at all, but he's making money. He's on his feet again, and he is kind of influencer. He's doctor. He show up in the TV all the time, so he's taking me to the TV, and they've been live on TV several times, like 10 times, and I've been recurring being on TV, on air, live TV. So I discovered that after Turning Point, I'm not afraid to speak anymore at all. I can turn on a camera live in front of millions of people. I can talk perfectly fine in English, Spanish, whatever. It's just part of what I'm right now. But the question is, how can I do to make to create some sort of events, or what you recommend me to start doing in that order to monetize the, because I need the people to talk about, I need the people to close, I need the people to present the offer, because right now I'm not doing nothing at all about that.
So be specific. What's the question?
What you recommend to start doing those type of events? What your
I recommend you create an event.
Okay.
So that would be the start. You got to, what event is it? And once you've created the event, okay, where's my target rich environment? Who are the woods and the coulds? Who are the people that would be interested in what I'm selling, and more importantly, would write a check to learn it? Right now, you don't have an event. You've been doing
No.
corporate events, and you've got nothing to sell. So that's the obvious answer. You need to create what the event is, and then once you've created the event, who does it serve? And then once you've created what the event is and who does it serve, then you say, okay, where do those people live? That's the answer. The challenge is, it's not an easy answer. The challenge is, you don't want to hear it. The challenge is, it's a whole lot of freaking work. On the
it
other
is.
hand, let's get you back to turning point again, because every time you come back, you're going to learn something different. You're going to see it differently, and your brain's going to say, okay, this is what I need to do. The last thing I will tell you, Carlos, and I want you to understand, there's two pieces to this. Number one, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Very few people reinvent the wheel. Tony Robbins didn't reinvent the wheel. Grant Cardone didn't reinvent the wheel. I didn't reinvent the wheel. I spent a whole lot of money on my own personal development. I took the pieces that resonated with me, put my own spin, my own twist on the information and the content to make it my own. Number one. Number two, you have right now, instantaneously, a massive advantage over me and people like me in that you speak two languages. I don't. Because you speak two languages, there is a massive market for you to be able to take any content you love, including Turning Point, with licensing agreements from whomever created the content, whether it's me, whether it's Tony, whether it's Marcel, whoever has content you love and you think is applicable. You go to that person, you say, how much would you charge me to license your content? Therefore, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can say, hey, Marshall, I pay you X, and you give me the rights to do your preview, which sells Turning Point. You give me the rights to do Turning Point in Spanish. You give me the rights to sell into their other back-end programs. And all I do is pay you this investment up front and a piece of all the additional sales. Done. That would be the other way that I would go. So if your doctor friend believes in you, loves what you do, and you go to your doctor friend and say, hey, I have this opportunity to buy ready-made, proven, profitable material. I'd like you to go into business with me. I need you to fund it, and then we'll split the profits. That would be one path that I would think would be very wise for you to go down.
Yeah, that I think that the big challenge right now is the liquidity, the financial liquidity.
You
Because
don't have any
I have
money.
to say, I have everything invested in assets, in real
I got
estate.
I just gave you the answer. Were you listening to me?
Yeah, I got to liquidate
So
some assets.
the answer was, I realized you were asking me that you said, I don't have any cash flow coming in. I'm already leveraged out. All of my money is in assets that aren't liquid. And then I also said, though, go to your rich doctor friend that you worked with that put you on the television, or people like that, and say, I've got this opportunity. Take a look at it. If it makes sense, then yeah, I'm asking you to invest. If it doesn't make sense, then I'll find somebody that makes sense too. That's what I would do. If it were me and I were you, you're a good looking man. You're a smart guy. You're eager to learn. The challenge is you don't have any content. And that, in due respect, is the hardest part of the whole equation, is coming up with that content. It takes years. It took me years. It takes anybody years, because you got to rehearse, review, and revise to get to what's really good. Hey, you're awesome. Stay tuned. You may just win 10 ounces of pure silver, and I look forward to chatting with you. Hey, we're coming to the end of the show. I've been asking all day. I've been talking about all the water. The earth needed it. Nobody said the secret word of the day. I had my wife bring me an extra cup of coffee today because I was so thirsty. You know why I was thirsty? Because I needed hydration. That was the secret word of the day. Nobody won the $8,500. Somebody is definitely going to win, though, the 10 ounces of pure silver. It's up to you to vote in the chat. Is it Lamar, or is it Carlos? Only two people, 50-50 chance, 10 ounces of pure silver. You vote for Lamar, you vote for Carlos, and on Monday's show, we'll let you know who won. In the meantime, I'm Marshall Silver. You are totally loved. That wraps up another edition of Marshall Silver Live. We'll see you on Monday. Hey there, moguls. It's me, Marshall Silver, your personal millionaire maker. Getting very excited about my brand new show coming up 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. I'm going to broadcast live to you. I'm going to give you content, information, emotional, mental, physical, and even spiritual power. I'll also invite some of my cool multi-millionaire and billionaire friends onto the show to give you more direction, more advice for having it all. All the knowledge to get everything you want and so much more. All you got to do is log in to the show to get information coming to you live from the bunker right here at Studio Money. So stay tuned.